I like that, definitely. Please come on in, make yourself comfortable. This is one of my favorite times of the year. Weather like this and our pumpkin parade coming up, so get ready for that. Welcome everybody to All Souls Unitarian Universalist Church here in Kansas City, Missouri. Welcome to those joining us online as well. We love to have everybody here today, and it's nice to see everybody ready to go and a full house. I can tell there's no football game at 12:15 today. So we've got a great Sunday night football game for everybody to enjoy here in Kansas City. Please silence your cell phones, electronic devices. We've got a great next hour for you to enjoy here with us, and thank you for joining us as well. Is there anybody who has dropped in to check us out, or somebody brought somebody today? Please feel free to stand up and introduce yourself. I know there's a lot of people in town for the game tonight. Well, I tell you what, we're glad you're all here. Oh, my Ginger, I knew it. I even met him.
My daughter from Bozeman, Montana, and my granddaughter from Portland, Oregon are here. And my granddaughter
Anybody else? Well, welcome. We're glad you're all here. In the event we need to leave, you're always welcome to take these two exits on the side or out on the front. And my name is Scott Hensey, and I want to thank you once again for joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you. Please stop. Now, I'm Anthony Edwards. I'm your music director here, and this is a little bit of a sad Sunday for me. Our sound persons this is their last Sunday. Daniel Warnicki and his wife, Fiona Carmody, have been with us for 10 years. Is that right? Yeah, and this is their last Sunday. Come on up. We want to thank them so much for being with us, so dependable, so professional, so wonderful, and now they're going to leave us like the dirty rats they are. No, we just want to say thank you so much for being with us all these years, and we want to say thank you with these two gifts. Gift certificate to my favorite, here's a commercial, my favorite restaurant, Ragazza, on 43rd and Main, and Kendall has.
Well, you know that we are only as good up here as they make us sound back there. So I have really appreciated your help, and especially the folks who run the teleprompter for me, because I'm really helpless if those words aren't up there on the screen. And so we also wanted you to have this chalice to remember us by, and hope that as your future endeavors, and I know you're not leaving us because you're mad, you're leaving us because you have many, many other challenging things to do. And so we wish you well in your future careers, and thank you very much for all your years here.
Thank you.
It's been great. Thank you. Yeah.
Autumn is making itself known to us. The air is decidedly crisp, and the trees are putting on their colorful display. One must be aware that it's not just leaves that might fall if you're walking under an oak tree, or a walnut tree, or an Osage orange tree with their softball-sized fruits. This is the season of letting go, and a season of turning inward. Nature is gathering itself to endure the long winter months, and so are we. The earth jackets itself with dead leaves, and we add our layers of clothing to keep warm. The plants pull their energy inward to help last through the winter, and we and the other animals feel the urge to slow down and to rest. Autumn lends itself to mugs of hot tea, to reading a good book, and to deep conversations by the fire. It's an introspective time. Many faith traditions believe that in this coming week, those of us who are living will have greater access to those who have died and to the afterworld. Christians celebrate All Saints' Day and All Souls' Day. Pagans celebrate Samhain. People of Mexican descent celebrate El Dia de los Muertos. And Americans of many faiths will carve pumpkins and decorate their homes, put on costumes, or hand out candy on Halloween. In this spirit of turning inward and of honoring our ancestors, I'd like to take a moment this morning for us to just do that. So if you'll take a deep breath with me. Center yourself here and now, and bring to mind those loved ones who are no longer physically present. What gifts did they give you? What have you learned from them? How did they love you into the place where you are now? What part of them lives on in you? Let your memories of these beloved ancestors comfort and accompany you this morning as we worship together. flaming chalice is a symbol of the Unitarian Universalist faith. Congregations around the world light a chalice each week, mindful of the warmth, light, and the energy these flames, our congregations, and each of us brings to the world.
Good morning. My name is Cyan, and I light this chalice for respect of the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part.
Will you please rise in body or spirit, and we will together affirm our covenant, after which we'll sing. Goodwill is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Where do we come from? And it has 4 parts. And our section leaders are going to come down and help you all out. The first part will be led by Nancy over here, this section. And the second part is be led by Sarah over here by this section. Darrington's going back there, Tom's back there, that's the third part. So you people in the back are the third part. And the fourth part is you people in the back, and Darrington will help y'all out. So the first part goes like this.
Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery. Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery.
And Darrington's group back there in the back is...
Where do we come from? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where are we going?
Excellent. So we're going to sing the first part 2 times. The second people come in. After 2 times, third people come in. After 2 times, fourth people come in. And then we'll back out in reverse on my cue. Okay? Here we go. First part. And...
Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from?
Mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery. Where do we come from? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where are we going?
Where do we come from?
Mystery,
What are we?
life is a riddle and a mystery.
Where do we come from?
Mystery,
What are we?
life is a
Where
riddle
are
and
we
a mystery.
going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going?
Good morning. If you haven't met me, my name is Reagan Buat, and I'm the president of your All Souls Board of Trustees. Today's offering is for the general budget of All Souls. And we are thoroughly within the embrace of autumn. To quote L.M. Montgomery, author of Anne of Green Gables, I am so glad I live in a world where there are Octobers. The trees are exuberantly showing off their fall splendor after wearing their green gowns for longer than usual this year. And some of us, myself included, are happy to break out those boots we've been waiting to wear from our closets for half a year or more. Gardens and crops are harvested, soups and stews are put on. As animals gather their own stores, we humans feel a pull to gather together in our communities. We come together this time of year as a general practice, seeking companionship, comfort, and community. And this community is one I cherish. We acknowledge the white supremacy surrounding us, indeed supporting many of us, and yet we recognize that we have still more to learn, more to hear, more to remember, more to uncover. The October line from Anne of Green Gables reminds me of the copy of that book which I inherited a few years ago when my grandmother passed. Last year, I took a closer look at it. My granny's copy of the book was printed in 1915. The inside cover advertises the other books for sale from the same American imprint, particularly those of early fundamentalist preacher Thomas Dixon, including The Klansman, later to be made into the infamous motion picture Birth of a Nation. Not only was that film screened with fanfare at Woodrow Wilson's White House, but Wilson and Klansman author Dixon were classmates and longtime friends. Dixon also generously supported Theodore Roosevelt's bid for governor of New York, and he was a confidant of John D. Rockefeller. Doubleday Publishing's later successes were possible in part because of the substantial profit it made on Dixon's books, particularly the trilogy, including The Klansman. Do these seemingly trivial facts change the world as we know it? Not really, but also, yes, kind of. Uncovering these more mundane and often sinister threads holding together our American dream is part of how we acknowledge and reclaim our history. As a congregation, it's part of how we uphold our mission to build a just and compassionate society. And we can work to make that mission a reality with the generous contribution of our friends and members who support All Souls and our mission. Thank you, and the offering will now be given and gratefully received.
We dedicate our offerings and our actions to the mission at the heart of this congregation, to build a respectful, caring community, to inspire personal, spiritual growth, and to create change toward just and compassionate society.
The Mississippi River empties into the Gulf, and the Gulf empties into the sea, and so forth, none of them emptying anywhere. All of them carrying yesterday forward on their white-tipped backs, all of them dragging forward tomorrow. It is the great circulation of the earth's body, like the blood of the gods, this river in which the past is always flowing. Every water is the same water coming round. Every day someone is standing on the edge of this river, staring into time, whispering mistakenly, only here, only now.
All my memories of love hang upon high stars. All the souls I've lost to tears, now the autumn jars. And the air around me here thickens with their song. Sing again their nameless tunes, sing again and strong.
Willows in September touch the water clear, set among the rushes tall of the flowing year. Rising up from sunlit past comes the shadowed sigh, running toward me silently, love to fortify. Many are the graceful hearts sung upon this stream, and it seems there's room for mine on these branches free. And the sky above the tree, whether wet or bright, is my ease and comfort thee, my good news and light.
Every day on my way to the pond, I passed the lightning-felled, chesty, 100-fingered black oak, which summers ago swam forward when the storm laid one lean yellow wand against it, smoking it open to its rosy heart. It dropped down in a veil of rain, in a cloud of sap and fire, and became what it has been ever since, a black boat, floating in the tossing leaves of summer, like the coffin of Osiris descending upon the cloudy Nile. But listen, I'm tired of that brazen promise, death and resurrection. I'm tired of hearing how the nitrogens will return to the earth again through the hinterland of patience, how the mushrooms and the yeasts will arrive in the wind, how they'll anchor the pearls of their bodies and begin to gnaw through the darkness like wolves at bones. What I loved, was that tree, tree of the moment, tree of my own sad mortal heart. And I don't want to sing anymore of the way Osiris came home at last on a clean and powerful ship over the dangerous sea as a tall and beautiful stranger.
I remember the first time that I was ever aware of crossing a state line. I think I was 5 or 6 or 7, not sure. I'm pretty sure we had crossed state lines in our car before, since we lived in southern Kansas and Oklahoma was not that far away. But I was a reader, and that meant that car rides were for reading, not for looking at the boring scenery. I had seen maps in my reading, and on this car ride, for some reason, I wanted to witness this crossing of the border. The maps that I had seen showed rivers as blue, which made sense. That's pretty much the color that they are. Roads on the maps I had seen were gray, which also made sense, or sometimes red, which made no sense. But I was intrigued that state lines were shown as black, and I wanted to see what that black line would look like in real life. So we were driving south on Highway 281, a 2-lane going from Kansas to Oklahoma. We drove along through the Kansas countryside in our bug-spattered station wagon. And soon I noticed signs for a town that I knew was in Oklahoma. So when had we crossed the border? I was so disappointed. I had assumed that there would be some fanfare or a line on the ground at least, or a sign, or maybe the land would look different. In some of the maps I had seen, Kansas has a sunflower or wheat, and Oklahoma has an oil rig, but I didn't see any evidence of that out the window. I didn't expect that we would just drone along in the dusty sunshine, crossing state lines willy-nilly without even noticing. That Oklahoma red dirt and ranch land and cattle looked just the same as the red dirt and cattle and ranch land of Kansas. For an imaginative child like I was, it was a huge letdown, and my parents didn't even notice. Spanish poet Juan Ramón Jiménez writes, "I sense that my boat has struck deep down against some massive thing, and nothing happened. Nothing. Silence, waves. Nothing happened, or perhaps at the moment have an impact on your life. What will change, and what will stay the same? Sometimes the impact with that deep thing is a predictable result of our own carefully laid plans, like the changes that come with getting married or having children or taking a new job. And sometimes that massive thing is random and feels out of our control, like a sudden illness or a death or the ending of a relationship. 24 years ago, I had my own striking against something deep when our older daughter was born. My husband and I had dated for 5 years before we married and waited another 5 to have children. At that point in my life, I was pretty sure who I was and where my metaphorical boat was going. And then, on that October morning, this entirely new person entered the world and our lives. And in that moment, we changed from couple to family. I was still the same person. I lived in the same city, had the same spouse, the same parents, the same siblings. I was the same, but adding the category of mother meant that I would never be the same again. A larger example of this happened in 1961 when the two small denominations of Unitarianism and Universalism merged. They completed this merger that had been begun by their youth groups 8 years earlier. The two groups brought their identities to the marriage, and though opinions differ on how well each group's identity was honored and carried forward, they did merge and created a new religion of Unitarian Universalism. On that day, I'm sure that to members of both groups, it felt like everything and nothing had changed. We as a country have had these types of watershed moments: D-Day, the dropping of the atomic bomb, the assassination of John F. Kennedy, the election of Barack Obama as our first black president. You can probably think of other national moments, as well as, I'm sure, some personal moments of your own. When you break it down, every moment is like this. Something happens and nothing happens. Or everything has happened, and we're all, as the poet says, at ease, or at least learning to be at ease in the new. The truth is, though, that we are often not at ease with new ways of being, even when it's the result of our own choices. New ways of being are difficult, even when we plan for them, because growth means change, and change means loss. It means losing the way things are. Recently, a friend of mine posted a comic on her Facebook feed that illustrates this difficulty. In the panel, there are two cartoon figures seated at a table as if for a conversation. Seated on one side is a figure that's labeled growth, and across the table is a figure labeled comfort. The body language of the figure labeled growth signals that growth is in charge of this conversation. The posture is open, confident. Comfort, on the other hand, looks less than comfortable. That figure's head is down, shoulders are slumped. And growth speaks, saying, this is just not going to work out. Growth and comfort do not easily coexist. We humans struggle to avoid this discomfort caused by growth and change. We create routines and habits. We seek refuge in things that feel like maybe they'll stay the same. But that comfort's a false comfort, because things will change, and we will grow whether we want to or not. I sense that my boat has struck deep down against some massive thing, and nothing happened. Nothing. Nothing. Silence. Waves. Sometimes when we collide with something deep below the water, we are very much aware that something has happened. These are often times of loss. Maybe the loss of someone we love, or the loss of prestige, or a role, or maybe the loss of our own autonomy. We've all heard the wisdom of letting go of trying to control how these events unfold. The trees are teaching us that lesson now as they release their leaves and their fruits so that their energy might be conserved for the winter. The Buddhist tradition teaches us that if we can become less attached to things, that we will suffer less. And we know this as well, that sometimes things must die in order for new things to grow. Our future lives will emerge from the fertile compost pile of our past experiences. But knowing this to be true and welcoming or even enjoying it are two different things. In the poem that Scott read, Mary Oliver laments the loss of a chesty oak tree that had stood near Blackwater Pond. She writes that she's tired of that brazen promise of death and resurrection. She's tired of hearing how the nitrogens present in her favorite lightning-felled tree will return to the earth again. She says that what she loved was that tree, the tree of the moment. She says, the tree of my own sad, mortal heart. She's grieving, and in her lament, the stories about what new growth will come from this loss are not comforting, and yet she knows they're true. Year after year, my family gets together to celebrate birthdays. We gather around the table for the birthday party, and everything's the same. The standard birthday cake is chocolate sheet cake with Breyer's vanilla bean ice cream. And I've been reusing the same party hats and banners since my children were little. Everything is the same, except for the things that are not. The love and the gentle teasing are the same, but some who have loved and teased us are not there. And new friends and new partners appear at the table. We feel the love of those who have died just the same, but we miss their touch. The song is the same, the cake is the same, the candles are the same, and the new people at the table have changed us by bringing their traditions and their stories to the party. In that moment, we are both less than and more than we have been. The poet says, or perhaps everything happened, and here we are at ease with the new. So how can we get to this place that the poet calls ease with the new? What helps us when we feel ourselves striking something deep under the water, something that knocks us off balance? In my experience, what helps me is knowing that I'm not alone. When my mother died about 10 years ago, I felt like I had joined a club I did not want to join. It was a club of people who had lost their parents. It's a big club because most of us are destined to join it, so I wasn't alone. Through that experience, I learned things that I had not known before, like which phrases and actions might be helpful to a person who's grieving, and which ones are probably not. I learned that when my friends lost a parent, as they inevitably would, what I should do is mark dates on my calendar, such as their parent's birthday or the anniversary or the date of their death, so that I could reach out to my friends on those difficult anniversaries. I learned this by being in the club, from the kindness and sensitivity and the example of the people who had been in the club longer than I. People who had lost parents and knew what to say and what to do to comfort me and to show that I was not alone. And the same was true with the joyful event of becoming a parent. I found some friends who were also new parents who were willing to talk about the changes that a child brings. We could share the stories of our children's births, the triumphs of finally having a child out of diapers, the frustration of bedtime, and we could laugh together about some of the ridiculous situations that parenting puts you in. When you strike something deep, it's easy to forget that there are people who are willing to be with you when you feel unsteady and when you're unsure of what damage might have occurred. In both grief and joy, it's good to remind ourselves and one another that we are not alone. Sometimes we forget it, though. And when we do, we're like the people in the poem that Dana read, standing on the edge of the river, staring into time and whispering mistakenly, "Only here, only now." The reality is that our joys and our sorrows are both exquisitely specific to us and universally mundane. We can find echoes of our own experience in art and in stories and in friendship, and these echoes help heal our feelings of separateness. I sense that my boat has struck deep down against some massive thing, and nothing happened. Nothing. Silence. Waves. Nothing happened? Or perhaps everything happened, and here we are at ease with the new. An area in which I have seen new happen and growth in our denomination and in myself has been in white Unitarian Universalists' increasing awareness of the systems of domination in our organization and in our world, and most visibly the system of racialized oppression. This is definitely one of those instances when growth and comfort do not coexist. To become more aware of the culture of racial domination has meant that white people have needed to take a good look at where we cooperate with and benefit from systemic oppression. White folks have needed to remain aware of how we contribute to oppression in our relationships. We have needed to let die the false idea that racism has nothing to do with us because we're good people. We're not racist. We have needed to widen our vision beyond the personal to look at the systemic and to find ways to affect the system. Another growing awareness has been the urgency of responding to the growing climate crisis. This awareness has required similar inventories of environmental policies and personal behaviors. We've had to search for places where we can have some leverage in the larger system. The boat carrying UUs has collided with some massive things, that reality of oppressive systems and the danger to our planet. And though we may not look the same as we did before, or we may look the same, but we will never be the same. It's uncomfortable, but we cannot, and I hope will not go back. So we must look for ways of being at ease in this new way. I believe we can find that ease by choosing to act for our collective liberation. We can find ease in joining with others who are working to find a solution to our climate crisis. We'll find ease in matching our actions and our values. The good and the bad news is that there's no end in sight to the collisions that our metaphorical boats will have with something deep and massive. So we'll never run out of opportunities to practice evaluating the effects of these collisions and to practice finding ease in new ways of being. These moments challenge us to accept the discomfort of growth and to allow it to change us. When I turned 30, I finally stopped believing that any milestone birthday would bring that feeling of being a totally different person. Like that state line that I had imagined, there would be some clear division on the day that I turned 10 or 18 or 21 or 30. Some division between what I was before and what I would be in the future. And now when we sit around the table and sing that same song over the same cake, wearing the same party hats, I try to celebrate what has been, to accept the change that has come, and to know that I am both the same as I have always been, and I am completely different. And I attempt to rest in the ease of the new. Amen. Will you please rise, embody your spirit, and we'll sing together hymn number 52. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of reason, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. For these we carry with us in our hearts until we are together again. As you go from here, crunching the leaves and the acorns of autumn's letting go beneath your feet, consider the moments from your life that separate the time before from the time after. Notice how you've been changed by them. Notice how you survived. We're all in this club made up of people who will grow and change, who will experience joy and face loss, and we need one another. Remember that you are not alone. And remember that you probably know people who need to be reminded that they are not alone.